So, the Martian Manhunter was the big spoiler for Justice League. Zack Snyder Cut, which was kind of weird because it wasn't a spoiler, but a lot of people really treated it like a spoiler. And I enjoy seeing the Martian Manhunter, but it's very obvious they didn't shoot anything for the Martian Manhunter to be in there. It was all like planned stuff with storyboards, and so he's not really there. And to me, it's kind of a waste of the movie's time, because, and don't get me wrong, I really enjoyed Zack Snyder's Justice League, but do you remember when Lord of the Rings Return of the King came out? It was in the movie theater, and at the end, when Frodo wakes up and there's like this golden light on everything, and they're all like laughing and smiling and clapping each other on the back, and it's in slow motion, and the music tells you this is the end of the movie. And then there's like another fucking 30 minutes of movie, and like 5 or 6 more points where the movie could have satisfyingly and logically just ended, and it doesn't. It just keeps going, and that's the ending of Justice League. Like, the perfect ending for that movie is where, you know, Clark is back in the downtown of Metropolis, and he hears someone in danger, and he starts running and opens his shirt to reveal the Kryptonian symbol for hope. And like, that would have been the perfect satisfying end to the movie. But then it keeps going, including the Martian Manhunter showing up. And the Martian Manhunter, when he shows up to talk to Bruce Wayne, he reveals, hey, I exist. Maybe see you next time. And the thing is, he says, when he's talking to Bruce Wayne, hey, I realize I have a stake in this world. But like, after the fact, that doesn't really matter, John Jones. Like, right now, John Jones has been on Earth long enough for people to give him the nickname Martian Manhunter, which is a weird nickname for him to have if he's hiding out pretending to be human. It makes me wonder who actually even knows him. How many friends does he have? It raises more questions than it answers, quite frankly. He should have just said, my name is John Jones, and Bruce Wayne could have made some snarky comment about that not sounding very Martian or whatever the fuck they wanted to do with it, and that could have been fine. But I'm not going to get super hung up on the fact that he's calling himself Martian Manhunter. I am going to propose a slightly altered continuity that fixes a scene that got ruined by the inclusion of the Martian Manhunter. So, setting aside the fact that the Earth has been in a crisis that could have destroyed it for like 3 times, 4 times by this point, and Martian Manhunter didn't do shit, he did, in the Zack Snyder's Justice League, appear to Lois Lane to make sure she went to work, which seems like less of a crisis than, you know, an ancient Egyptian goddess witch taking over the world with her brother, or like an army of superpowered aliens showing up to blow up Metropolis and eventually raise the Earth and cryptoform it into their new home planet and destroying everyone who already lives here. It feels like Lois hasn't been going to work is a much less important problem that he has chosen to deal with. And even that, I can kind of ignore. We have the logic of comic book movies on our side. But what really annoyed me, there's a good scene between Lois and Ma Kent. And I've always loved the post-death interaction of Lois and the Kent family, going back to the Death of Superman in the 90s. The Death of Superman comics, that entire series, those of you who have been around me while I've reread it, I do reread it multiple times, at least once a year, but sometimes more than that. I love it. It's, in my opinion, one of the most well-produced events of 90s comics. And I cry every time Superman dies, to this day, because the woman he loves is there, next to him, watching him die for her job. And she'll never be able to tell anyone what he means to her as she watches him die. And so I've always loved her interaction with the Kents because they share that secret about Clark that they have to keep from the rest of the world. They have to privately grieve for the man they lost. And they have each other to lean on. And the scene is really good between her and Martha telling her that she's got to move on. And then Martha Kent steps into the hallway, and it turns out she's the Marthan Momhunter, and Martha Kent wasn't involved at all. It was a fucking dude who wants to get Lois to go back to work. And the emotional scene where the two characters connected over a character that, if this movie had come out when it was supposed to, we would still be feeling the effects of his death. I mean, it's a really weird choice. That's just the best way I can put it. It's odd that and I was thinking maybe Zack needed a way to set up Martian Manhunter, and he started looking at characters that have enough interaction that it makes sense for the focus to be on them being the Martian Manhunter. And that's the only thing I could really think of that made this make sense to me, is that when Zack Snyder was cutting the movie together, he had to make a choice and say, I've got these two characters, and Lois, of course, super important to the story. Martha is a character that we know, so it'll have some kind of impact. I can't think of any other reason that would make it make any kind of sense. So, I propose, in order to not ruin the emotional and storytelling impact of that scene, I propose that Martha Kent has always been John Jones. And we never see the General and Martha Kent in the same scene. I'm not aware of anyone having seen them together. Of course, he is a shapeshifter who is psychic, so he'd be able to pass as human for, 40-something years. So here's what I propose. The Marthan Momhunter, she had to come to Earth, and John Jones disguises himself as Martha. We'll say her maiden name is Slaghoople. So Martha Slaghoople, John Jones takes her identity, takes her face, doing his mom hunting, and then falls in love with Jonathan Kent. They get married. Now the whole time, John Jones is pretending to be Martha. Because remember, he's the Marthan Momhunter now. And they find a baby. Marthan Momhunter says, hey, in his head, obviously this is a Kryptonian child. Definitely want to keep an eye on him. So he stays and he raises Clark, trying to instill some moral virtue into him. And of course, like with all children, Clark is a complete dickhead. Loves his mom, but thinks about the advice his fathers gave him. Never thinks about the advice his mom gave him. That's his mom, Clark, you dick. Then, eventually, Jonathan Kent finds out John Jones's secret. Now, of course, we know the Martian atmosphere is dying. And the Martians, well, they need atmospheric control centers. They have technology to make sure they can breathe. So, John Jones, the Marthan Momhunter, gets one of these atmospheric control devices and kills Jonathan Kent with a tornado to keep the secret from being exposed. See, all of this works now in continuity. But most importantly, now that John Jones raised Clark as Clark's mother, the emotional impact from that scene is not gone. Instead of it being revealed that Martha Kent was never talking to Lois, it is revealed to us that Martha Kent was always the Martian Manhunter and still cares about his adopted son. And then we can have a whole spin-off series of the Marthan Momhunter hunting other moms. Preferably other moms named Martha. Maybe it could be revealed that Joe Chill was actually the Marthan Momhunter, and Martha Wayne was another Martha mom who the Marthan Momhunter was hunting. That would really perk up the DC extended universe. Of course, none of this is going to happen because Jeff Johns doesn't answer my calls, and Warner Brothers doesn't answer my tweets because they are cowards who will not make my movies. Warner Brothers, when you see this, give me $5 million to make a Nort Niesmacher movie. I promise you'll have a good return, and everyone who goes to see it will have a good time. Thank you, good night, like, share, and subscribe, and if you know someone who works at Warner Brothers, threaten them until I get to make my goddamn movie. Thank you.